As one story ends, the next begins.
3 words to describe Zlatan, that's kind of difficult.
Flamboyant.
Strong, determined, warm.
That he's complex.
Big smile. Winner. Technical.
Proud to be from Malmö.
Self-confident.
Incredible.
Great man.
Weak, strong, brilliant.
Cool.
Malmö, the third largest metropolis in Sweden, vibrant and cosmopolitan, with an economy that's regenerated in recent times. The city stands as a monument to the new Sweden. It's a city notable in football terms for Malmö reaching the European Cup final of 1979. Within Malmö lies Rosengård. This area has a million stories to tell, but one in particular stands out. This is where Sweden's greatest footballer was brought up, where his first steps on a path to greatness were taken. This is the story of Zlatan, of who he is, of what he is, and of where he came from.
Rosengård is one of the underprivileged areas with a lot of different problems. There are high unemployment, there is a big diversity when it comes to nationalities, and many of the people living there are foreign born. So of course it's one of the city districts that you can read about in the media with all the problems. And of course also in that way the story of Ibrahimovic is the contrasting the other media stories around Rosengård.
Rosengård it's one of the poorest areas in Malmö and in Sweden, and it's got a very high level of immigrants living there, and very high rates of unemployment also. So I mean, socially it's one of the hardest or most complicated areas to live in.
There's several different parts of Rosengård. And the part where he came from is not the worst one by far, but still it's bad enough if you have a low social status and maybe no education. Zlatan himself has not much of an education, so he makes his success through his skills with his feet and his talent for seeing what the game should be like.
Här var jag bor nu just nu, det är hur trevligt som helst. Jag stormtrivs här faktiskt. Alla känner alla här. När man går på gatan kan man bara stanna till vid någon, kvittar hur gammal hon eller han är. Så snackar man med den personen. Till exempel jag kan gå ut på balkongen och kasta ner en 20-lapp till en av småungarna, gå och handla mjölk. Springer de iväg och handlar mjölk, kommer tillbaka. Så det är på många sätt man kan förklara varför man trivs.
There's, I think, in every city there is a environment who is not so good at each other, but there are quite a lot of areas in Rosengård which is really good and really good people and so on. So you shouldn't mark it, I think, as a bad environment.
Maybe Rosengård is not a ghetto but it's certainly near something like that. And he lived outside Sweden. He lived in the middle of Malmö, but he was 19 years when he first watched Swedish telly for the first time. He didn't know anything about the traditional Swedes. He lived in a very tough neighborhood. You know, later he met guys who said, nice to meet you and things like that. But in the words Zlatan grew up, you have to show, look at me, hey, you know, you have to be tough. And that was, I think, his first lesson. To survive, you have to be tough. He lived first with his mother, with his 5 siblings, and his mother was a cleaning lady, and sometimes he hit him with his wooden spoon, and sometimes his mother hit him so hard that this wooden stone broke, and then he had to go buy another one, as it was his fault that and then the mother, because of certain circumstances, lost custody over him. He moved to his father.
När kommer mamma, sa du?
Jag vet inte. Det ringde till hennes mobil.
He loved his father, he loves his mother as well, but back in those days his father was sort of traumatized over the Balkan War. He was drinking heavily, and I think he didn't even see Zlatan. He was just sitting there at the telly, you know, seeing the latest news about the war, and were drinking. So Zlatan was out all day, nicking bicycles, and you know, he was a little thief back then.
He is a good bike stealer. He was.
When he was young, he stole some bikers and he makes
with him.
Not that with me.
He used to run good from the cops when he stole bikes, and you know.
He was a very fast guy.
Yes.
Yeah, he must trust in himself, and he learned that from Rosengård, because all the people here in this place trust about themselves, and after that others can do something in the future.
He's very important to us because we look after him. He is a good player.
Maybe we can say a lot of people in Rosengård, there's Alaskan, love Zlatan because he is a special player.
When he was asked about the travel he did from this this problematic Rosengård to buying one of the big villas down by the sea, he was asked what did that travel mean to him. He looked into the camera and he said that Zlatan may leave Rosengård, but Rosengård never leaves Zlatan.
You can see that just the fact that when he came out in the professional world, from Sweden, where he was only known as Zlatan by first name, he changed so he would have Ibrahimovic on his shirt, on his jersey, because he wanted to honor his background. Being from a Muslim background, being from very, very low-key, very low-status background, he really wants to show all the kids at Rosengård and Malmö in general that if I could do it, you can do it.
Football in this city and in many other cities, I mean, the people who makes it the best careers are the people who come from kind of tough backgrounds. They have to fight a lot, and also I think in his case he got kicked out of his house a lot, and outside his building there was a pitch, and of course he spent most of the time there. So if he was from a safer family where he could stay at home and watch TV, maybe he wouldn't be out at the pitch so much. So I mean, I think that is a really, I mean, you've been to Rosengård and you see it's actually there's a lot of spaces for young people, especially if you like to play football.
It was not easy for him, as I understand it. I mean, obviously you should ask him, but I mean, as we understand it, he had to fight for himself, and it was not that easy neighborhood to be raised in, and that made him fight, and he used the talent he had, I think, and that's what made him the great star he is.
I'd say that coming from Rosengård, one of the things you really need is street wisdom. Because that is what enables you to be someone there. And if you want to make a social network where you can grow, either if it's sports or it's a business or whatever, you need to have that. And in the tougher parts, you're taught the hard way. And I would say that Zlatan he's no angel, he's no saint. He's probably done quite a few things that most people wouldn't be proud of. But then again, that is part of what made him so tough, that he could go all the way to the top. So the background makes all the difference, I think.
Honestly, I didn't know that it was so hard for him at home, which I have read in the book. today. And we never discuss it, but he managed to hide it on the practice in a way. So I was always open to my players to if they have some problems. I wanted them to come to me and talk about it, but we didn't talk about the problem he had at that time.
Zlatan was honest, fun, creative in his language, and with a lovely smile. So he had everything the camera needed. I mean, he was a great character for a film.
Din egen insats?
Nej, jag spelar okej. Vi kanske missar för många chanser.
Du, många sekvenser du lättar och trixar och leker. Händer inte att de blir lite förbannade nästan när du lurar bort dem?
Nej, jag bara skojar lite med dem ibland. Sånt som kom.
Okej, jättebra Zlatan.
That's the personal side, and of course then amazing skills, techniques, and of course that was a great combination for us.
The first time I met him, and then I was really nervous, of course, because I really wanted to write this book, and I was nervous meeting Zlatan, but he didn't really see me at all, I thought. You know, he was talking about other things, and then suddenly he asked me the first question, and he said to me, "David, do you believe in God?" You know, I was nervous, what kind of question is that? And I started to understand, maybe this guy is really religious, or he wanted someone to share his beliefs. I don't know what to say. I don't know, Zlatan. I said, I don't know if I believe in God. And then he looked at me with that Zlatan bling, and he said, then you don't believe in Zlatan either. And I said, yes, I do believe in you, Zlatan. And then he said, no, because God sent me to Rosengård to play football. And I thought, this guy, I mean, he's absolutely crazy. He's a megalomaniac. I mean, he thinks he's God or something. And then he just blinked his eyes, just turned me on. So that was the first meeting with him. His father and mother didn't have any money, you know, he didn't have this nice clothes.
He has been talking and writing a lot about coming to the richer areas because he went to a school where there were rich kids and he couldn't buy the same clothes as them. He didn't have the new shoes.
His colleagues in the Malmö FF, they have this, you know, football shoes cost 2,000 with kangaroo shin. I mean, he's bought his shoes for 59 crowns, you know, in this food store.
I mean, as a teenager, you want to fit in, and he felt that he didn't, and that I think was quite hard for him.
One day he showed me, I mean, you were out, I said, when you were a kid. So what was it like when you come home in the evening? He said, come, David. And we walked to the fridge and he opened it, and I was, you know, amazed because it was full. The fridge was all these Italian delicatesses all over. And he said, you know, David, it's still like this. If not my fridge looks like that, you know, I get anxiety, I get anger. And then he remembered his childhood when he come home, and he, in the anger and hunger was beating him, and he thought the same thing every time, may it be something. And then he said to me, some days I was hungry as a wolf and there were only beers in the fridge. And that, David, is a pain in that I will never forget.
He felt poor and he felt different in a way that can be really hard for a teenager.
In the early childhood, I mean, nobody ever noticed him. I mean, his mother was, you know, occupied with his work and all his other brothers and sisters, and his father with the war. And if any grown-up saw him, they thought, I mean, what is this guy gonna steal or something? They didn't see him in any positive way. The only place where they sometimes saw him in a positive way was on the football ground. So I think football was the first way for him to be seen in a positive way.
A lot of things that made him great is still there. And of course, part of it is, of course, this kind of the social revenge. I'm going to show them. That's very strong in him. And I think that's very strong in others, like Zidane, or you can talk about other big footballers. They have this kind of social revenge too.
He's, in one way, he's this tough, very secure guy, but deep inside he's still this insecure kid from the ghetto. So he has this inside, and I think he uses it, this insecurity and this anger that his childhood gave him. You know, this anger, I want to show them. They think that I'm just this little, you know, immigrant kid, but one day I will show them. He uses that anger and that insecurity which is still inside him.
And it's we and them, you know, and the we are kind of the people below, you know, and you can see now in France, you can see all the rap artists and all the kids from the suburbs, they love Zlatan. And I think that's really interesting because it's exactly the same feeling here in Sweden. Everybody who has an immigrant background, who has to fight a little bit more to get into this society, they love him because he's their hero.
I mean, the middle class, we look down on immigrants, especially people living in this kind of neighborhoods. So even if it's not a Zlatan word, I mean, he felt immediately stigmatized of coming from that background. It's the feeling that you treated him as this little ghetto kid. You know, if you go, I think Zlatan is so nice to be with, but if you pretend to be upper class and, you know, and try to fool him and look down at him, I mean, he remember and he get angry.
Otroligt mjuk och fin kille, va? Hans bakgrund gör ju att han kanske har den här mer tuffa och kaxiga attityden. Det är en slags mask eller ett försvar för honom mot han kanske ser angrepp både från höger och vänster. Men vi pratar ju mycket med honom och det är en fantastiskt fin kille, va?
Ja, jag känner ibland att jag kan vara lite så kaxig. Men alla har sin kaxighet, men alla har sina gränser. Jag kanske går för långt ibland. Men det är inte så som folk tror, att jag är så kaxig idiot. Jag fattar ingenting. Utan jag har mina gränser. Jag kan även vara ödmjuk ibland. Jag väljer oftast vara mest kaxig. För annars kan de trycka ner mig lätt, tycker jag.
When the fathers, he had beat a guy in the club, and the fathers wrote this list that Zlatan Ibrahimovic don't belong in Malmö FF. And I think that's incredibly important for him. If you must imagine, he come there to this club with all these middle-class kids, and he didn't have money, he didn't have the right way to talk, and then the fathers wrote a list that he didn't want him in the club. And that was important, of course, and you can deal with this in all kinds of ways. You can just quit. I mean, I don't care about these brats, or you can try to be like them. But he understands that he will fight and show them. And I think that's an important moment in his career.
att det är en av de största talangerna, kanske den största jag någonsin har sett komma fram. Han har egentligen allt.
He wasn't stand out at that time so much, and he came to Malmö when he was 12, I think, and I was the coach for the under-16 team, and so you work with your players, and then okay, someone could tell you about the player, but I didn't heard about him or have seen him before I got him at the team.
I think he was not ready by then. He was not a fantastic talent on at very early age. He grew from 15, 16 to 18, 19 very, very fast. And there were actually a few talents that were considered to be better than him in the early days. But 18, 19, he really turned out to be a super talent, and then nothing could stop him, and his mindset was there from very early on, I would say.
Jag gillar till exempel dribbla, det vet ju hela Sverige nu. Jag gillar dribbla. Så ibland istället för att passa dribblar jag. Så visst kan en lagkamrat bli sur, men det är sånt som händer. Det är inget. Utan det är rätt kul. För att det ska vara kul. Och rätt kul är det inte långt att spela egentligen.
My thoughts about young player is that they are not finished. Like they must work with everything. But he was exceptional technical player, so that I couldn't teach because he was so good at the technical skills.
Zlatan was a good player, but not so physical. But he's a fantastic technical.
Okay, what's your style of play?
Technical.
Technical, because you're very big.
Yeah, but I have very technical feet.
And also, I think it's the technical come from the feel when he live home on Rosengård, and they have maybe 3 times they have practices in the club, and after that they go home and also with the football.
His life was number 1 football, number 2 perhaps school, I don't know, but and family of course, but number 1 was football. So I think he when he could 24/7 he played football wherever it was. If it was outside in the yard, outside their apartments and so on, he played football everywhere. And that's one of the reasons I think he's been a good player, because he has done so many training hours for himself. Then he became so good as he is.
He loved football, the best friend in the world. When I think from he was born in 81 and to today it's a family, and the boys in the family and his wife, and after that it's the football.
One day he came and he wanted to leave, but I think it would be a shame for such a young talent player to leave Malmö. It has been fault for me as a coach to say to him, okay, leave. So I took my amateur psychology and talked to him. Ola and my second coach took the practice that time, and we stood at the field and talked for 1 hour, 1.5 about why and and so on. So next day he was at the training. I think we have a respect for each other, and I could tell him it's not good to do that or that, and he respect that, and I also respect him because he could tell me why should I do that, and I want to do that. I find it better to do it like this way, and yeah, okay, do it that way, and we see what's happened.
He's always liked strong, authoritative men, and he was, of course, brought up in an area where men were supposed to be authority, so. But it's important for him. He likes authoritative, strong men, but to have to see him, you know. And he said, "I want to be a strong leader myself, but I want to understand that players have to be different, and they must be allowed to be different."
Is that where it went wrong with Guardiola?
Yeah.
He wanted all the players treated the same?
Yes. And there was a different word for him. I think in Barcelona he just felt again as this immigrant kid who come to Malmö with this well-behaved middle-class kid who didn't understand him. And I think there was the same story all over. And Guardiola didn't understand him, and he couldn't really cope with that kind of character.
I remember now a game in Italy. We was a training camp. We played Verona at that time, and they come with a under 17, I think, and we were under 16, and we played so well that game. In the first half, I think I played this player Tony Flyger, and in the second half I played Zlatan. And they have a magnificent show, those both players, and Zlatan was incredible at that game, and it ended that before full time Verona leave the field. So good was we. So that's one of the games.
I think it's a very important step for the career for Zlatan. He can go to, I think it's maybe Roma and Arsenal, or when he was 17 or 18.
He was 17, let's not forget, you know, and I wanted to see, to give him a trial with the first.
They don't set up different goals for them. They are already at the big clubs and so on. So, but I think Zlatan has always have some goals for him in the future, and step by step taking them.
Yeah, he was a very good player. That was his first real season. We played second division. I mean, one of the few years we ever did it. And he was, of course, he was not one of the stable, established players in that sense, but he could really make a difference in that league, of course.
He go up to the first division, and also we drop down, and we come back again with a senior team, the first team here in Malmö. Everybody talking about Zlatan in Malmö.
I remember his first game here at home when he scored twice, and we did 2-0 against one of the top teams from Stockholm. That was really one of the memories from his career here.
So happy after the game, and confirmed to me and Johnny, and talking about the game. It's a fantastic story when he was 13 years old, and we have see him all the way up to the success story with Malmö.
Vi har ju Jag har fått ett antal, kan jag säga, samtal om honom. Och det är inte 1, 2 eller 3, det är många alltså. Ja, i stort sett alla länder. Kan vara agenter, det kan vara talangscouter och så, men de har fått samma svar allihopa och han är inte till salu. Jag har ju tagit det här jobbet för jag vill försöka att lyckas med det här nu. Att vi ska gå upp i allsvenskan. Då kan man inte, även om det kommer massor med miljoner och erbjuds en spelare, inte nu. Aldrig.
We knew we couldn't keep him, so it was not a big issue for us. And of course, we needed the money as well, I think. So it was, I think it was a good deal for all parties there.
There's a funny story from about 2001 or something when he was just going to be transferred to Amsterdam to play for Ajax, his first professional club. And I was working for Swedish TV4 and made a piece where a small kid won a contest on our website to make his own TV interview with Zlatan. Of course, Zlatan was not a world famous hero by then, but he was world famous throughout Malmö. And this small kid sees Zlatan coming out, Zlatan sees him, and Zlatan is so respectful to this kid. He says, "Hello, I'm Zlatan, how are you doing?" They sit down in front of the cameras, and the kid's first question is not, "How can you be such a good player?" that you would think from a kid 6 years old. Instead he says, "Why do you get so many red and yellow cards?" And Zlatan, being a star, maybe he would be offended. But no, he just laughs his heart out and says, "Well, maybe I should just chill a bit." And he really liked that kid, and it's shown out.
His idol from I remember we were at Milan
and we're looking for the Fiorentina against Inter Milano, and Ronaldo played a game in San Siro.
Fortunately, Ronaldo scores 2 goals. I think Inter won 2-0, and that was happiness for Zlatan to see his idol scoring 2 goals.
And he said to Johnny, "I will play on this stadium."
And he says, "I'm going to be here one day."
5 years later, we play in Juventus, and they play against San Siro, so it's fantastic.
He wanted to be better and better, and that's one of the keys to his success, I think. He's always have goals, and that's good.
I think it's a success story with Zlatan. His ambitions, he come to when we have some. It's important to say it's very good in school, but he's said to I go from the school and I will play football now, and he also I will be the best player in the world.
Zlatan är ju ett, man ska inte säga närheten av problembarn, men han har en kaxig attityd, och samtidigt så vi får acceptera lite av hans förhållande kanske. Men samtidigt så börjar han väl komma in i det här att han ska hitta sin plats i laget här. Han är liksom inte stjärnan än. Han tror att han är det. Men om man förstår att han tror det ibland, i och med som tv, tidningar, fans, HSA-stjärnor. Det kvittar, han kan stå och hålla bollen i luften ute vid hörnflaggan, så är han ju ny Maradona. Vi är 10 andra på plan som kan gå ut och hålla den i luften vid hörnflaggan.
I think he was before he really delivered all the results and all the fantastic things on the pitch. I think he tried to use his confidence and to some extent he was above and considered him to be above the other people around him. And I think to some extent that is disturbing some people, especially in a society like the Swedish one, where you're supposed to be very even to everybody, and it's a very in that specific mindset that we have here, I think.
Han är jävligt egoistisk också. Det finns ju massor med lägen när vi springer oss fria, när Zlatan helt enkelt inte ser det. där en enkel passning skulle innebära en jättemålchans. Men att han är egoistisk betyder också att han vågar göra de här lite farligare grejerna. Vilket han misslyckas med ibland. Men när han lyckas då kan det hända vad som helst. Då kan han göra mål från ingenting.
Muhammad Ali was the love of his father. You know, when they had this good time together, they were certainly not watching Swedish telly. They were watching old videos of Muhammad Ali and George Foreman and all things.
I'm young, I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat.
And I think he immediately loved that attitude. You know, the Muhammad Ali attitude is absolutely opposite to the traditional Swedish attitude. We have to be humble, you know, and don't say, but Muhammad Ali was just coming here and say, I'm the greatest.
I will be the youngest heavyweight champion in history.
Zlatan thought that was something that spoke to him.
There is a feeling when you score a goal. It's hard to describe. You lose yourself. It's an explosion of emotions. You can't control it. Thousands cheering with you in the stadium. Millions worldwide. And you've made it happen. Now, to score in the Premier League, that's special. The Barclays Premier League, the most exciting league on the planet, exclusive on beIN Sport.
Jag har bestämt mig för en grej, att jag ska ha en Diablo, en bil, Diablo. Det är en Lamborghini. Det är, om jag blir proffs så är det ett måste att jag ska ha det. En lila Diablo. Lila, glänsig metallic. Det är ändå en dröm. Så ska det stå på registreringsskylten. Toys, leksak. På engelska.
I remember when we flew to Amsterdam when he signed his contract with Ajax. And we flew out and flew back together, and we went with him when he checked to find his new house, or he got his new sponsored cars, and you know, he could have whatever he wanted. And then on the plane back, he showed me he had five Ajax t-shirts or shirts, and he got them for free. And he was sitting in the plane counting, oh, this must be shirts for like 5,000 crowns, you know? He was still amazed by that he got for free something worth, you know, which is now not even 2 seconds of blinking his eyes on the pitch, you know? But at that moment, he was still in this moment of shifting identity from being a very poor boy to being someone, you know, who's rich forever. It's kind of a very interesting moment.
Det känns konstigt när jag får bara komma in och välja. Vad vill du ha det? Man får vänja sig.
Of course, it means, from a kid from that upbringing, it means a lot. It means that he has succeeded in life. But I think it's more that we value him as a great player. I think it's important for him that there's not other people who earn money on him. He wants to be paid as much as he's worth, and I think that's important for him.
He's a guy of competition, and when you compete about everything. So of course, then the competition is to earn most and make the most money. It's not because of want to use the money for something. It's just because it's fun to be better paid than other players and make more money. It's kind of a stupid, boyish competition, not so interesting, I think. But it's normal. And I also think that he feels that a lot of people try to make money out of him. And then he said, okay, if you want to make money, I want to make money. So that's the fight he's in.
Malmo, of course, think he's one of their sons, because he has put Malmo on the map, so to speak.
He's a living hero in Malmo, and he's very much loved and admired, and we follow the teams that Zlatan plays in. Normally I will go for Barcelona, but on Tuesday when they meet Barcelona, I will be for Paris. So that's I think that's the feeling a lot of people have.
He's the big ambassador of Malmö FF and one of the great players of all times here, since even though he didn't play very much in first division here, he was very young when he left the club, but he's the biggest star that we ever raised here, so of course it's very important. And also financially, since we sold him to Ajax, and then every time he changes clubs we also get some cash. So very, very important, and he's very connected to Malmö and Malmö FF, and makes our club even more famous, I think, in Europe.
Today it's bigger when Björn Borg and Ingmar say it's important person in Malmö and also in whole Sweden.
We live in a time when a lot of discussions are around city branding and city marketing and so on. If you're not seen, you doesn't exist today. So of course a city that can be linked to a brand, because Zlatan Ibrahimovic is really a brand, is good value for that. And also I know that the travel agencies in Sweden could see that when he moves, they can see a bigger interest for going from Milan through the years there. Today you make a city trip to Paris and you link it to looking at football. So of course it's a value.
I think he recognizes obviously that this is where he's coming from. This is his own neighborhood. He seems to always would like to return here. He bought this big house here. He has his family here, his roots here. So I think it's important to him. However, of course, now he's a global person, traveling everywhere and living everywhere in many places. But I think he will always come back to Malmö.
I mean, Zlatan is the biggest icon we ever had in Sweden. I mean, Zlatan is so what Sweden thinks. I mean, there's a lot of people who admire him, love him, live for him, and then of course there's people who hates him. I mean, they are racist, of course, and there are other things that he hasn't had this right attitude, that it's not Swedish, you know. But he concerns us, you know. We never. I mean, even if you compare to Björn Borg or so, you never have such a big star in Sweden.
You know, I travel the world a lot as filmmaker, and my films travel too. So I've been to all continents over the last years, and wherever I go and I say I'm from Malmö, people will say Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And of course, there is no one else from this city who has kind of that brand, and I mean, of course, that's extremely cool. I can go in a taxi in Managua, Central America, Nicaragua, or in South Korea, or you know, New Zealand, wherever, and it's.
Zlatan has become part of the Malmö identity. Malmö has itself come from a hard situation. It used to be a working man's city. Now it has gone through a hard transformation to become a service city, and advanced in education and everything. And having been able to transform is something of what Zlatan has done as well. I mean, we come from Malmö, we can be stars. That's part of the Zlatan heritage, I would say.
If you're interested in football and you're young in Malmö, you know about Zlatan Court. It's a significant mark because it also shows that Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a part of Malmö, but it's also part of the identity of Rosengård.
Det är väldigt speciellt för att han har ju växt upp här och sen så är det ju hans plan, så tycker jag faktiskt att han har gjort något bra för att kanske någon annan vill vara som han och spela här. Så jag tycker det är faktiskt speciellt.
Jag vill bli som Zlatan för att han kan spela och han har gjort bicicleta i över 20 meter. För att han skjuter bra, han kan göra bra så bicicleta och sånt. Och vi gillar han för att han spelar för vårt landslag.
Zlatan is your hero?
Yes, ja.
Why?
Han är bra, han har bra taktik, bra bollkontroll och ja.
För att han spelar bra, han har bra kontroll, han skjuter i mål bra, han dribblar bra. Så.
Zlatan is the first real success story. So he shows us the new Sweden, new Sweden rising.
For many kids, he is a role model in that way. That shows that if you really want something, you can do it. And the travel that he's done in sports and in his social position is, of course, a long travel.
He's got great importance also for my generation who, I mean, we all grew up in a mixed Sweden with lots of different cultures, and he's been like, I mean, the front person of this generation.
Ja, varför blev jag såld för? Jag blev såld för 82,5 eller 6 miljoner. Det beror på valutan. Ökar valutan kan jag bli såld för 90 miljoner. Mamma fick reda på tvn. De hade visat en bild på mig där TV2, hon kunde inte så bra svenska. Så hon trodde något hade hänt med mig. Så ringde hon mig panikslagen då. Vad har hänt med det? Nej, ingenting. Jag har blivit såld till Ajax. Ja, men så blev hon gråta glad för min skull. Kom jag hem. Fick jag stor kram. Så hon är glad. Det kommer kännas lite annorlunda, men jag kommer fortsätta vara mig själv. Jag ska inte förändra mig ett dugg. Utan det gäller bara då att vara försiktig med den ekonomiska biten. Men min personlighet och det ska vara som vanligt.
I recognize him, but I also see a very different person, of course. He's grown a lot. He's very interested in things around him. He's a grown-up and very established person. He has experienced a lot over these 10-11 years since he left here, and of course I see the boy in him when I meet him, but I also see a grown-up man with a family and taking on responsibility for the environment where he's working and where he's living. So it's both yes and no, but I recognize him still, I think.
If you go out in Malmö and see youngsters, 8, 10 or whatever, playing football somewhere at the grass or something like that, and you ask them, who are you? I'm Zlatan. Always.
There are also, of course, another side of that story that I mean, the children in this area, Rosengård, that teachers who are working with them are saying that they are not really working as hard in school because everybody wants to be like Zlatan instead of working in school. So, I mean, there is a backside of the story also.
How do you think your book has changed perceptions of him? Maybe abroad as much as...
No, it changed. I think we don't remember now because Of course, he has more enemies before the book because people didn't understand him. But now, when they read about his childhood and understand how difficult he has, they understand him more. And I've heard so much. I used to hate Zlatan, but then I read the book and now I love him. But the most important thing for me and for Zlatan is that all these kids who never ever read a book, who thought that books was the kind of the most nerdiest thing, you know, they never went near a bookstore or a library, they are now reading. And that's beautiful, because in Sweden, as all over, we have a problem with these kids from this suburb. They don't read at all. They don't. The language is so poor. But now they start reading. So Zlatan, I sometimes say that, absolutely, remember Zlatan for all his fantastic goals and things he did on the plane. But maybe you should most of all remember Zlatan, for he was the guy who made Sweden to read.
It's the same Zlatan. It's a warm guy, and it's also interesting, and also have many questions. He have so interesting about the football team in Malmö, and he also have some small projects when we in Malmö working with a school in Rosengård, and also Zlatan dedicate his story, his book to the children in the class in the Christmas present, and the children read the book and tell the stories to Zlatan and get him back to his career. So it's very warm, and it's so interesting about the team in Malmö.
I think it's beautiful because I lecture a lot, and I see all these kids from the suburbs, and I see that Zlatan means hope for them. Because of course they grow up and they think, no, there's no way for us to get into Swedish society. But then they see, but Zlatan did. I can see he really means hope. It's possible, and that's beautiful.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic, truly an icon in Sweden and beyond. Once again, he's a champion with PSG now, the 6th club he's won a league title with. He continues to prove that wherever you come from, you can succeed. He is Zlatan.